If any of you folks are wearing hats or glasses, best remove them, because this here's the wildest podcast on the internet.
Grab your fairy dust, it's time to play. With every episode, we'll light the way. Bring back the magic for all to see. Together we'll discover all the joy and glow. In every story, there's a little bit of gold. Join our podcast adventure, let the magic unfold.
All right. Thank you to our house band. All right. All right.
Allison Island.
Welcome back to Bring Back the Magic podcast. I'm Josh.
And I'm Gina, and I feel like I was just here.
You were, because this is part two of the Do You Remember When Epcot Future World Edition, part 2. Okay.
Because we cannot be contained, guys. And
yes,
again,
we did not fit it into one 45-minute podcast.
Let's be real. This is episode 3. Hopefully you've heard the first 2 episodes by now, and you're a follower and a fan, and you love us. But we are brother and sister, and we are just talking like we normally talk. So there may be times we're trying real hard not to talk over each other. But again, it's the passion, it's the magic that just overflows. And so we're doing our best to, keep it rolling smoothly.
And also, like I said, I'm like, it's brother sister stuff. I'm like, we're both fighting for attention, just like we did with our kid when we were kids, and our parents liked her more. So I just had to be louder.
That sounded like past tense. I don't know what you were saying.
They still love her more. Okay, whatever. You can have them. You can have them. You take them. I'm done with this. And this is what the episode 3. Josh quits the podcast.
Stop it.
No, I'm just teasing. So yeah, we were going over the Epcot of yesteryear, which we were talking about Communicore East last time, like anything to that side of it. Now we'll go Communicore West, if we have it correct. This is what you said by process of elimination. That's what we believe was the East side, and then West side. That was the West Side Epcot. There was a lot more, goings ons over there.
So now talking OG, if we're talking OG West Side of Future World, it would be Universe of Energy. It would have been Horizons and World of Motion. Which, like if you were just a recent Disney lover, that would be Guardians of the Galaxy, and then it would be Mission Space, and then Test Track is what you would know them as now.
Yeah, and that's what I said. Like in Universe of Energy back in the day, was the whole dinosaur thing. Where it was a huge departure for what it became later when they
Ellen's Energy Adventure.
Yeah, when they Ellened it and ruined the ride. I mean, it was funny for so then everybody was like, Ellen ended up not being such a great person apparently. So they're like, well, on to Guardians of the Galaxy. All right, sorry, Ellen.
Which I do love. I'm just gonna say that I do love that very, very much. It's completely a departure though from the original concept of that section of Epcot. I'm just talking from Universe of Energy. It's just that
there's a song
one
there
of the biggest things that takes, again, I love the ride, but it's one of the biggest things that just doesn't feel like it fits the original concept of Future World. And I get it. And what is that section called in the new, what is Guardians of the Galaxy fit in World what?
World of,
like, that's not World Celebration. It's not World Imagination. It's World, I don't know. Discovery? World Discovery, maybe? Is it in there? I don't know. All right. Anyway.
I don't know. I don't know words. So like Universe was like the Universe of Energy. They had that song. I nailed it, by the way. That was dead on to what it sounded like. Spotify,
I will say,
whatever
though,
else it is.
That was a little scary when I was little, though, because it was like you were in that moving car that was like your whole theater moving. It was wild. And then when the screen kind of came back and you saw you kind of at that age in Disney, you believed it so much that you were like, is a dinosaur going to get me? Like you didn't want to sit on the end of the aisle because you thought the dinosaurs are going to get me. I mean, I'm only speaking for myself, but that's how I felt.
Yeah. So that ride to me, I thought was cool. Again, same thing. It's like kind of like I don't want to be on the end. I don't want to be on the end near these dinosaurs. I mean, meanwhile, like now you go to like Universal or something in like Jurassic Park, and something comes out looks like it's real and it's going to kill
or
you.
Dinosaur,
like, this thing's like coming at you. Like,
this wasn't meant to be scary. I'm just saying when you're little, your imagination is so much scarier than reality. It's the same reason why, and we'll talk about this another, why I hated Alien Encounter and even Stitch's Great Escape, because put me in a dark room and my mind is way scarier than whatever you're actually doing.
Yeah, no, that's accurate. Now, so everybody who knows me Okay, actually, we'll wait on that one. We'll wait on that. No, we'll go in there. We'll go in there. Okay, so
Yes,
Horizons.
yes,
Yes,
ignore this. Ignore this.
So everyone who knows me knows this. Horizons was one of my favorite rides, mainly because I hate lines, and it never really had a line. Probably why it didn't stick around. But it was also one of the Omnimover rides, so it's like you could just get on. I'm like, it's the same thing. That's why Spaceship Earth doesn't take a long time to ride, to get in there, because the queue moves pretty quick unless you have to get somebody with like medical assistance or something like that, and they stop the ride. Which now I feel like it stops a lot during that ride, but it was easy because it's constantly moving. It's not something that has to load up like if you're on a Ratatouille and they have to like pull the cars in, get them loaded, and then wait for the ride to engage. But Horizons you can get on. And I just remember getting on there. Now, was it? I want to say Horizons where it started. Didn't it start with Jules Verne? I want to say
it was in the story. Yes, they came through, so, and it was the man and woman
going through there. You got Jules Verne or whatever in Little Capsule kind of thing. But one of the things you always remembered about Horizons was that one scene with the orange field, where it was so pungent with the orange smell. And that's why, like, when you go on Soarin' now, when they had like the orange smell on that, I don't even think they have that. That's not even the version they do now. I don't even think they have
I think that was in the Soarin' over California. Now
it was the one where they had like the original version. You could smell the oranges, but again, a throwback. But I loved that. And there were so many little spots in there that, like, you had like the what was it, the Robo Butler and all these kind of things that were like in Horizons. Just the different scenes where it felt like you were kind of like you were going by like a living scene. Like it was kind of like not so much immersive, but it felt different, like when you were a kid rather. But I love that. And to the effect of the end of it, I always had a love-hate relationship with things, because you'd be in a car and everybody would get to choose their adventure at the end. And you'd have, I think it was Brava Centauri, it was Mesa
it was
Verde.
The desert, it was space,
no, it was
okay,
but Mesa Verde and Sea Castle. So it was like the future, like regular kind of thing, that it was the desert, and it was
desert, space, and underwater.
Yeah, desert, space, and underwater. Okay. I hated when anybody would hit the under the sea one. I hated it. I thought it was dumb. I thought this is the trash one of all of them.
And I thought
always end up getting on with somebody who would hit the sea one, and I get great.
I thought the desert was boring. I thought the desert one was boring.
Well, you know what? There's no accounting for taste, and
but to be wrong. To be fair, again, I'm not assuming that everyone who's listening to this episode is like an old school Disney fan. I hope a lot of you are, but just to present it to you guys, as you're in this Omnimover, the best I can describe it is very similar to the type of car you're in at the seas now with Nemo, kind of that shape. And then you had these little, like, on in front of you, they almost look like a picture, but it was lit behind kind of thing. And they were a button, and it said, okay, choose, where you want to go.
Like a car dashboard, basically, just with a
and then you pick it, and a majority ruled of the car. And then basically what they did was put you in front of a screen, and there was like blinders next to it, so you couldn't see the car next to you screen, even though if you peeked, you kind of could. And it kept you contained to give you kind of like, on a very, very minimal level, like a Soarin' effect of like, oh, I like feel like this is really happening.
Now there were parts of that ride where they'd go like this, and where like, you feel like you were turning, because they'd do like the screens, and it looked like
they did have like a Soarin'-esque,
and it would feel like you're like actually moving, which was kind of trippy. But I loved the Horizons ride. Like I said, the whole thing with that, I would go on it a million times. I thought it was a great ride. Then putting Mission Space in there, not my favorite. Not even close to it. I don't like it. I always thought, and again, on another episode, we'll get in depth about my Mission Space kind of deal. But if you go to, they've recently opened up Space 220. Okay, in the last year or so,
and I do like it there. I don't know that I love that it's prefix. I understand why they changed it to that, because people would just come up and they said, and just get dessert and like hold a table for a long time, kind of like what they had to do with Beauty and the Beast. People just want to come in and have a very
I will tell you something. There's certain restaurants, as we go through, there'll be episodes of this where we go over restaurants and everything. As we're a new podcast, we'll kind of get our footing, and bear with us as we kind of get our rhythm. But me shimmying in my seat here. But like things like Space 220, you're right. I'll make the price of it. It's expensive, But again, the food is actually good quality
It is.
food. Like I haven't
It
had
is.
a bad meal there. I mean, it is pricey, but you can go to the beer garden and spend the same amount of money. I mean, it's like things
I
are
gotta say
pricey,
that restaurant
anyway.
though definitely defines Disney magic in the old school way though, because the way you enter in and they make you feel like you're flying up really high. I swear to you, the first time I went in and I got off the elevator and went in, I felt like I had a little bit of altitude issue. Like I was like, I feel like I'm really high up. Like this is weird. Like I'm sure I'm not, but it felt like it. It literally did. I go, I feel like I have not altitude sickness, but you know what I mean? I'm
But
like, I
you did
feel
know you didn't really go out
yes,
into outer
Josh.
space.
Yes,
Okay,
thank
I'm
you.
just
Thank you
making
very much.
sure.
But I'm
I was
saying the
like,
illusion was so well created, and maybe it was just the
it
feeling
was,
of
and you
like
see the throwback to Horizons because they
right.
have the little rotating thing that was a piece of Horizons when you go through with
Mhm.
like the fruits and vegetables and all. That was a piece of the original Horizons.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Mhm.
that was cool that was in there. I was like, oh, it's a
Yeah.
little throwback
But the
piece in there.
effect is effective, you know what I mean? Like, I do think and again, we can talk about Horizons in depth at another time. I actually have that on my
Yeah,
list of future topics because it really is something I think a Disney, like, old school Disney fan loves to talk about. I have a dress with the robot butler on it, and I always get compliments
I
from
know.
people because they just know it. Or again, also what I love about that was the "If we can dream it, then we can do it," and just really encompass that theme of dreaming and
Mhm.
Disney, and I love that ride. I love that ride.
Well, if anybody's going to Space 220, there goes Moneybags. Cha-ching.
But what I'm gonna say too on this note about breaking down Future World, tying into what we talked about in our very first episode about Universal Studios compared to Disney and talking about the thrill rides and contraindications. If you look back to the original, there really wasn't anything that everyone couldn't ride. Okay, let's break it down.
100%.
Journey
Yeah.
into Imagination, everyone. Kitchen Cabaret, Living with the Land, everyone, or Listen to Land, everyone. The Sea, Living Seas, yes. Then you get over Universe of Energy, everyone. Horizons, everyone. World Ocean, everyone. Now let's take that back to right now. And you're going to say Guardians, not everyone. Mission Space, not everyone. Even Test Track, if you've got like a spot, they're not necessarily going to get on that, or somebody like mom or dad
Look,
sometimes don't want to
listen,
get
I'm
on
like,
that.
somebody can't get down into the car and test track.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It is very poignant, like what you're saying is because it
Mhm.
was very inclusionary, the whole park. You could do
Mhm.
everything.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything. I think maybe there was maybe two attractions, I think, in all of that, and they were both boat attractions, which was like Maelstrom and the Mexico boat ride. Okay,
Mhm.
like I said, if you were like an elderly person had trouble getting onto something, the other stuff was like omnimover kind of ride vehicles, which you were
Yeah.
easily walk right into. Then you
Because
may,
now
watch
I'd
your step
say
as you get on the moving conveyor kind
Mhm.
of thing. That'd be all.
Now I'd say it's really limited to Journey into Imagination and obviously the land. People can still ride that, but not everybody's going to ride Soarin'. And
Mhm.
the Seas obviously is easy and Spaceship Earth, but that whole other side, I will tell you, is like contraindication for certain people. Not to the level that I feel like Universal does their contraindications. I mean, I can still get on all of them, but
Mhm.
that's going to be something that is not for everyone. And that's, I think, the struggle because then you get over to World Showcase and there's like a smidge of rides there. So, that's one of the things I feel like, and I'm not going to say it lost the magic there, but I will say it is something to take note of as far as family vacations. And I don't even know if I should be bringing this up now, but that even relates to right now the announcement about Geo 82, the 21 and over bar they're opening in Future World, whatever that area is called now, and saying, so who's that for? Is that for people that have no children or people who came without their children? Because, if it's
I don't
21
know.
over,
I'm down for it.
I know. And I'm not saying it's not gonna be popular, but do we really need more like to encourage
Well, the
people
thing
of
is,
like,
it's
yeah,
it's become
drink,
a little
drink
bit
diesel.
more, and that's where I said the Disney Magic stuff is everything was very inclusionary and everything. And I
Yeah.
think Disney's always been that way,
Mhm.
and now it's kind of there's a little bit of like a segregation of like age
Mhm.
groups and just those kind of
Mhm.
things, and like people that can ride and can't ride certain things
Right.
based on like physical disabilities or whatever else. And some of these
Mhm.
urban newer rides that they have are like maybe not friendly for like larger people,
Mhm.
maybe not friendly for people with like head, neck, or back injuries, kind of things,
Mhm.
or motion
Or who
sickness.
get motion sick easily,
But
like
again,
Mission
they and
Space.
I get the reasoning behind it, and I'm
Yeah.
no
You can't please everyone all
shade
the
at
time.
Disney because they have to compete with people like Universal that are going
Mhm.
through there. And remember the people that are tapping somebody on the shoulder saying, "Let's go to a theme park are young kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're people that they're more resilient than we are. Like as you get older and you're like, I can't do this. I remember being at Boardwalk and Baseball with you back in Florida years and years ago, Gina. We rode the Tilt-A-Whirl
like
7,000 times in a row. If I looked at that ride right now, I'd throw up. Like if not even I would do. I'm like right now I'm like kind of dry heaving because I'm like, and you're just, let's go again. No, it's horrible. And we literally went on it until the dang park closed.
Absolutely. I went on Mission Space a ton of times when it first opened. I was much younger
All right,
then.
you're dead to me. Get out of this.
And I went on the whatever color is the whatever.
You went on a bunch of times.
Yeah, what color is the sicky side? That's the one I went on too, like a bunch of times, and not back to back.
Well, remember when it first opened, it only had the sicky side.
Yes, exactly. But even when you had the choice, I went on the sicky side. And then now I took my son on the not sicky side. And literally, I thought I was going to have a panic attack because I had such claustrophobia. And that's when you had to wear masks on the ride. And thank God,
it's even worse.
Thank God we were the only 2 people in our car because it seats 4. And as soon as the car closed, I like yanked my mask off because I was like, oh, but I was also scared because I was with my son who was little. And what if he hates this ride? I literally, kid you not, was hitting every single button on the dash going, what's the emergency button? What's the emergency button? Like, what if we need to get out of here? And I hated the whole entire thing. So
yeah, apparently that thing is like really involved too. The technology behind it's fascinating. Like it's got more than like the space shuttle, like the electronics. It's like,
because even, and they said that same thing about Test Track, even though it's not even the spinning part because when you're not on the sicky side,
that's what I was
thinking.
Maybe it's a test track.
It is test track. But even though you're not spinning,
again, I make
it's like the claustrophobia will get you even if it's not on the spinny side. You know what I mean? So that's just one I don't.
Yeah, so there's only one reason to go to Mission Space is to go to Space 220, the restaurant. Maybe go to the lounge there. Or if you're really like somebody that loves it, you know what? No shame at that. I'm like, it's okay to be wrong and say that ride's good. But I'm like, you can go directly, do not pass go, do not collect $200 and go right through the exit and go into the gift shop and buy some astronaut ice cream. That's the only acceptable thing that I will accept.
Forgot that was even there.
To stop at Mission Space because by all accounts, it's awful.
But on that note, in the comments, if you are somebody that does love Mission Space, I actually really want to hear that. We want to hear that. Like,
why not?
Give us your opinion. I mean, again, these are just opinions that we're sharing here. I know there's always going to be somebody to the other side, and we're not trying to promote like that everyone needs to think the way that we do. But if you do love it, please tell us down below. We would love to know that. And please tell us why.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, and also if you have any questions, for us or anything else, you can always put them in the comments or something you want to see us cover in a later episode. You could do that as well. Let's skip on from Horizons. Let's go over to something that wasn't part of the original park creation, but came there. It was still a long time throwback. Was Wonders of Life.
When was that closed, do we think? When did that cease being like a regular pavilion? And I'm not talking a festival pavilion, but when did that close as far as Body Wars, Cranium Command, all that stuff?
Wonders of Life was from 1989 to 2007.
Okay, and I wonder if even that 2007 was when it was still open for
everything in there. Body Wars the same way. So when we'll talk about it. So for everybody listening and people watching and all that stuff, Wonders of Life had multiple little things, and it was a little pavilion indoors. You went in, it was more like, again, the edutainment kind of thing. You went in there, you had Body Wars, which was a ride, like a simulator ride, much like Star Tours in Hollywood Studios. So again, you're in front of the screen,
through the human body.
Motion, going through the human body, reduce the size of a blood cell to go through to find this. What was it, like a splinter, I want to say, or something you were getting out? So you're going to remove this infection. You had that. You had
Cranium
Command.
The
Making of Me that was in there, and Goofy About Health. They had like the little child's area that was in the middle. You can sit there and watch little cartoons.
Yeah, there was like, it was kind of like a theater, but it was like open on the side so you could come and go as you please.
Yeah, you could just walk right out of it. And you had like tiny little kiosk things that were set up in there. But you did have Cranium Command was the show.
I miss it every day. I would love
it's still there. Apparently, it's the creepy things that are in there. Like, they still got like the
somebody stole Buzzy. Remember, it was a whole controversy. Those of you who are on like
Guzzy. But yeah, you had this show Cranium Command, which you had like an all-star cast of that too, because you had like Hans and Franz from like
they were
Saturday
pumping the
Night
heart,
Live.
right?
You had who else was on that? It was,
I feel like the anxiety was a Bobcat Goldthwait, was it?
Bobcat Goldthwait was on there. Oh no!
Yeah. And then I don't remember
he
the
was
hypothalamus.
in there. The hypothalamus was Trying to remember who that was.
Because you only heard his voice. That was just the, okay, I'll do this. And he was a robot that kind of came up. So I don't know who actually was his voice. And then it was like, who was it that was?
John Lovitz was the right brain.
Right. And the left brain
Charles
was...
Grodin was the
left brain.
The left brain.
Hypothalamus
was Kirk Wise.
Was George Wendt the stomach? Norm from Cheers?
I think he was.
I think
I remember.
I feel like he was the stomach. Because he was like, guys, I got to send some of this back up. And he started pushing the food like they thought they were going to throw. Okay, guys, I know we're off topic because if you don't know this ride, you're really lost right now in the podcast. So let me rein you back in. The theater was meant to feel like you had a little pre-show. The theater was meant to feel like you were inside a child's head. And all these screens were in front of you that were like kind of representing like his eyes and all the parts in his body. And it would show you. And it was so cool. I highly recommend look it up on YouTube because there are videos where you can see the whole attraction. And it was this little cadet Buzzy who was in charge of this kid. And it was basically, he was part of like the Cranium Command and he was trying to earn like his stripes or whatever. And he was really nervous about operating this adolescent boy. And you're
who was after this girl. Yeah, who's after this girl. And it's like,
and it was so fun. And again, I really would love to be able to take my son to that right now because I think he would love it. I'm so sad that attraction is like gone. But that was a fun one. Look it up on YouTube because it's really hard to describe.
No, it's great. Like Cranium Command is one of those ones that I look forward to going on. It didn't matter what the age. You know, I'm like, honestly, it didn't matter to me, like, as far as that.
It kind of gave the vibes of like the Monsters Inc. laugh floor, how you come into that theater and it's like the different screens and like setups you're kind of like watching, but the front of it looked a little bit more giving the vibe of like a kid's head that you were inside of.
Yeah, no, it was cool and had the what was it? I remember the entrance video was like, we've had some successes and some failures. And he was like, it says a picture of Ernest up there.
Oh, yeah. And then he kept telling him if he didn't do well, he was going to pilot
General Knowledge, I think was the guy's name.
He was going to be in charge of a chicken.
Yeah, he's like, you'll be pounding at his chicken, Scuzzy.
Yeah. And then Buzzy was an animatronic that was like trying to control everybody.
In the theater, so you could see him moving around. Had some really cool stuff. And he had like video screens that would pop up in the.
And correct me if I'm wrong, because I can't remember if this was from the very beginning, but like they had like bicycles or something like electric. What am I trying to say? Exercise bikes. There was a section where you could get on like workout, and I was like, of course, the pavilion dedicated to health sank. It was like, we're not here for healthy. No, thank you. We don't want to know. Let's not bother with it because it did just close up and then it was open for festivals and you could do wine tastings and stuff in there and some little videos, but it just went away. And it's amazing to me how many rides have been refurbished in the time that closed and that just sits there. Another point though about Epcot that's changed drastically is they used to have sponsors for every single ride that funded these, and it was like a great advertisement for them. And that's kind of a
donation from Nestle.
Yeah, that's not really a thing now. I think it's like even Spaceship Earth, I think was the last one they lost, and ironically, they had Siemens as their sponsor.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that has something to do with it too. Like when they're not getting these funding from these sponsors to keep these things up, maybe, I don't know, but
yeah, that could be part of it. But like I said, I liked Wonders of Life a lot. Like you would go in there, it was nice because you could cool
Body
off
Wars made me a little sick.
Body Wars, any of that stuff. I only have to look at a simulator ride. I'm like, my daughter Peyton loves Star Tours,
as does my son.
It pains me that I can't get on it with her. I'm not going to. I mean, as much as it pains me, I'm not going to get on it because I know that it'll ruin the rest of my day.
I've gotten on it 2 times recently, and I've learned the only way I can handle it is if I have a little hand fan with me. Because the one time I got on it, the air conditioning was not working in there, and I thought I was going to have a panic attack. I was like, and I used to ride this all the time. When I rode it with the high school friends of mine that were there, we would all keep our hands and feet off the ground, so it would rock us all the time. I mean, what changes in your body with age is insane. But cool rides. There's nothing wrong with the ride. It's just that again, like depending what part of your life you're in,
it'll make you sick. But that's what everybody was saying. Like it was also people back in the day would say it made them sick not only from the motion, was the subject matter because you were going through things like, oh, it's this blood and it's this. I'm like that. I never fell into. I'm like, listen, you're reduced to the size of blood. You're going through like a vein. I'm like, there's nothing else. There's not like it's not gross, really, to be honest.
Yeah.
But when you came out of there, you passed by like that would to the left of Horizons. But when you went where Test Track is now, was World of Motion, and that was always
Danny's favorite. Our
by
sister
GM.
Danny, to this day, that was her absolute favorite ride, and she will never stop talking about it when she gets on test track. And she's not even really that big into test track.
I can't remember a lot of the ride. I
I
remember
will
I
tell you
liked
this.
it a lot, but it was all
It
through
was-
like the different
It was
transportation.
very similar. If you'd never been to Disney except one trip, and then I showed you a video of World of Motion and I showed you a video of Spaceship Earth,
Yeah,
they're
it's
very similar in design, even to the part that sometimes you get confused and going, wait, which one had this in it? Because it just was so
the
similar that way.
Communicore conundrum.
Yeah. I mean,
like,
at the time you knew because, and like the soundtrack was great because it was like fun. And, what was it called? Fun and Fancy Free. No, that's a cartoon. It was, I just played it for mom before we came down here, but it was similar to the Making Memory song, but it was like, it'll come to me. But World of Motion, again, that pavilion itself, that even now is test track, gets sponsors because it's a very good ride for the like car companies to sponsor because they literally have their cars.
and it's usually
GM.
GM. It's usually GM that does it,
Mhm.
and they've been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
But it used to be even more cars when you came down. It was more futuristic stuff. Now, like when you go into the queue of test track, you saw like some futuristic looking cars. The test track queue has changed, a bunch of different times, like a bunch of different things, like the way the ride from was originally made to when it like evolved and like you could make your car and everything. It's changed. I prefer actually the old thing where you went through and they're showing the videos. Okay, put up the block, German and Belgium. Like, and you do this thing because you'd have like the pre-show little videos.
I did love the original test track.
I liked World of Motion when I was a kid because you come out, you got to see all the cars. And it was like all the new cars that were coming out. They still do some of that, I think, but it's not as much as it was before. Like now it's like they'll have like one Corvette there and a couple like SUV things, but they had a ton of them. Like at least from what I remember, I may be making it up. Again, it's not all factual and I tend to embellish or just make things up. But there was 3,000 cars down there, I think. By all accounts.
And everybody got to take one home.
It was an entire parking lot, and you could drive them. No, you couldn't do any of this, and there was probably like 6 cars.
But what was also cool about World of Motion is when you got in the car, which was kind of like laid out similarly to like a people mover. So it was like little train cars like attached. When you got in, it came outside and then went back in. There was no purpose for it. It just did. It like came outside and there was like glass, like kind of wall. And you could see outside into Epcot. And then you went in and went through the ride. But I really did love that because again, it was teaching you about the progression of transportation through the years. And it was fun and had a great soundtrack that obviously it's fun to be free, to be on the moon. That's the song. It was fun to be free. Yes.
Fun to be free.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, that's in the Wayback Machine. Hold on.
To be free. Yeah, that was the song from World of Motion. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And I loved it. I remember how sad we were when they closed it. I still don't know that I fully believe the Horizon sinkhole story, that's why they were closing Horizons, because if you look it up, this is factual. They shut it down. And then there was so much uproar about people going, oh my God, I love it. They reopened it again. And once again, it still didn't have lines. So they shut it down. And they're like, sinkhole. I was like, I don't know if I buy that because why'd you reopen
Okay,
it?
so I took a trip. I want to say this was back in 1996. Okay. So, yeah, I think it was me and my buddy Danny. We went 96.
Okay.
And
so you were 16.
Yeah, again, stop aging me. We do not need to age shame here. Okay, yes, it was.
Did I say it was a shame?
Shh. I don't like thinking about my age, and you're really triggering me right now. I may have to leave the podcast. I'm just kidding. So 96, me and my buddy Danny. Danny was like 18. I was 16. We went on a trip to Disney. Somehow, by whatever weird witchcraft, I made this happen that we were able to go, and it was just us. So we went on this trip. We were on Horizons, and we went through the one time we're looking. There's this one little thing like where this the cat is batting at like this fish in this one scene. So we got on it, went on, cat's batting at the fish. We get off the ride, went somewhere else. We get back on the ride. We come back, cat is gone. Like cat is not there anymore. And there's a tuft of little like it was just like a wire or something that was sitting there. I go, did someone steal this cat? Like, it was just somebody that on this ride that literally stole his cat. So we're like sitting there, we're trying to be like the detectives now, because at 16 and 18, we were oh so smart and had the world figured out. And we were gonna go and sleuth this for Disney. We're like, do you know this cat's gone? All right, we'll find this out. Right? See, where were you yesterday with the cat and the thing and the goings on? So it's funny when we're like, oh, we kept coming back to see if maybe it was for maintenance or something. Well, we come back again, like I think it was like one of the next days, and all there is a little tuft of grass on top of where the cat used to be.
That's
and
so
I go,
sad. This is why we can't have nice things, Josh.
And I think they never replaced that cat. I'm like, unless somebody like has some kind of video evidence that after like, let's call it late 96 or maybe early 97.
Yes, if you remember the disappearing cat, please comment below.
If you remember when that cat disappeared. But I thought that was the funniest thing. I was like, oh my goodness, somebody stole a cat on there. It's like not as cool as them stealing Buzzy from Cranium
Or
Command,
the girl that got out of the boat and stole cucumbers and
who
the
does
land
that?
recently.
Really?
Drunk people, though, that's the thing. That's my one fear about. Now, granted, I know you can get alcohol everywhere in Epcot, but it's my one fear about this 21 and over place of like people that don't have kids to drink, or keep them from drinking too much, or
kids to drink.
They don't have kids to keep them from drinking too much. You know what I meant. Shut up. But
I don't know things. Not that smart. But no, when we go through, like, again, World of Motion was great. I enjoyed that. And then remember at one point, like the Odyssey restaurant was actually a restaurant. Like I forget what year that closed.
I don't ever remember eating there, but I do remember.
You don't want to eat there. It was next to the bathroom.
Yeah, I don't think I ever ate there. But one thing about Future World that I will say that I know they said they were bringing back, I think it has launched, but I haven't seen it myself, is the fiber optic sidewalks. I remember walking through and thinking that was so cool when you leave.
That's what I was going to say.
I want this around our pool. I want fiber optic tiles all around our pool. This would look so cool.
Yeah, okay.
Spoiler alert, we never got it.
But no, I remember when they installed those, like, this is so neat. Look, and it's doing this kind of stuff. I'm like, it was
different
so
patterns.
Wild.
Yeah.
No, that was really wild. I enjoyed that a lot. Yeah. Like that whole pavilion or that whole thing with, I guess, called Future World back in the day, when like Spaceship Earth, like we'll just say, like when you first came in there, you remember, I remember at one point, remember when they did the legacy, like little tombs or whatever they put up there,
monoliths.
Leave a leg, the monoliths.
Monoliths.
But they're like, oh, this is going to be it. And they're like, oh, and everybody else this. And like, I think like 18 people bought like little pictures or something. I'm like,
again, if you're not an OG,
the outside.
Yeah, an OG. They put these big, giant, for lack of a better term, tombstones. But everyone would get a picture and then they printed it on a metal little thing. And then they put it. And at the end of the day, it just ended up being everyone looking for the pictures of NSYNC. And that was all it was.
Yeah, that's what I always find out. It's like, I know it's on the edge of the F1 and I found it. I was like, there they are. There's NSYNC. Yeah,
but I don't miss those at all. And I think, did we ever get our picture on them?
I don't think we ever did leave a legacy. We did the bricks around the world,
which are also gone because
they took those up. That's what I feel like is a little bit cruddy, because I know they have to do stuff. They have to, it's weird because I guess it was just bad planning on Disney's part,
right?
Which was a really awesome thing when you could buy the bricks, because they were going to have that walkway around the entire, like, what is it, Seven Seas Lagoon right there. But they're like, oh, and then they took them out. You're like, there was a ton of those sold. And then I think you had the option to get them, didn't you, or something like that? You could buy them from Disney, I think, when they pulled them up.
I don't know. I know that on the Disney Store like website right now, I don't know if you still can. I know you could, like, as of 6 months ago, you can buy a brick there and like put it like in your garden or something. But we never got any notice that we could. We had 2 different bricks, and
I think that could be completely made up. Probably.
Right. Probably. I just don't think it was worth it to them. I'm sure there's somewhere in the contracts that says Disney reserves the rights to yank this up whenever we want to and don't hold us to the word forever. But
well, yeah, it's like there's also legalese in there that says you do not own a piece of Walt Disney World property. I'm like, come on. Imagine if somebody's like, because you can't maintenance your thing, like somebody puts a little like rope thing around their brick. They're like sweeping it. Excuse me, off the brick now. Okay. The line form's over here if you want to read it.
Right. Yeah. But back to Spaceship Earth.
Tickets to my my brick. You want to read this?
Back to Spaceship Earth.
Josh, Ellicott City, Maryland.
Talking about Spaceship Earth. And again, that it is kind of wild when you think how they designed Spaceship Earth, that it literally was only built with like that outdoor queue section, which really, I mean, it works for the kind of snake in the lines, but it is kind of wild to think
does it?
No, but I'm saying, think, picture this giant iconic attraction that you put in, and there's no part like where they put that queue is very surprising to me. It's just like, okay, we'll put a ramp up, and if we need to, we'll put some little gates for everyone to kind of snake through. But again, this is a debate I have with my friend Eric that I will never ride that first. I will never. It's like, I get he thinks like start your vacation off that way, start your Disney or Epcot day off that way. But why would I want to start it off with a 50-minute wait when I could be doing something else? At the end of the day, it's a walk-on ride.
What time of year are you going when that has a 50-minute wait?
The last time I was there in the morning, it's always a long wait. Because people come in, the newbies, and they get on it first because they're like, because they can see the line. They kind of think, oh, that's not so bad. And no,
I was the only one that made up facts on this podcast.
Okay, sure. I'm gonna go check it out
I'm
tomorrow.
like, I feel like that's like a summertime wait. Like, who would do that?
I mean, we've been there in the summer. We were there.
Also, picture this when yesteryear stuff when they did the pin trading in 2000 when they started that. And I used to have a bunch. I still don't know what happened to all my pins. If anybody's out there and finds a pin collection, it's been fenced somewhere. Like it was a lot of pins.
But I never got into the pin trading, but that's.
But no, I'm saying they had the whole pin trading little thing in the middle there, like when that started coming out, and that was real big, and all that happened. That was, a big part of like Future World. People would go in there. You have all the pin sharks, we call them. They would come in there and trade stuff. I remember buying in cash. It's like it feels like CD deals you had in the pin trading community. I'm like, yeah, I'll give you one of these. All right, what do you got in the bag? The guy it was okay. I'm going to tell you the story. Okay. So this guy, I'm in the park and I've got some of these limited edition pins that I got from a drop that Disney did. I want to say like the film strip Mickey one. I think they were like limited to like 1,200 pins each. It went through like stuff from like Plain Crazy onto like Steamboat Willie, all these different like Mickey shorts, and so it started through the 20s and went up from there. Well, I remember this guy's there, and let's just say he's a little bit rotund and just had his bags of pins. He's like, yeah, I got some other stuff you can't get in the stores. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if this guy's trying to sell me drugs too. He's like, here, you got this pixie dust for you. That's angel dust. Thank you, buddy. I don't need that. I'm like, you can peddle your wares somewhere else. But he goes there. He's like, here, I got this stuff. So he opens up this thing. And I was looking for like a pin trader pin, and I ended up getting one later because that was like the coup de grace of like all the Mickey. It was a Mickey, and it said pin trader on it. But that was the big thing back in 2000. Everybody was trying after that. And then they had the trainer pin, which was like Jiminy Cricket. You see like the people that train people in Disney have that Jiminy Cricket pin on. Well, one of the things I had, and I wish I still had it, was a Disney Guest Relations badge. And I bought it for like $100. Like cash, cold hard cash. I got it. So I buy it from him, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm allowed to have this. It's like, you have Disney contraband. You're going to be banned from like all parks. But I wanted to wear it there and just go around. It's like, and just be like, hey, if you got any questions, I'm around here. I look like I'm in street clothes, but really, guest relations over here. But I had that. I'm like, I felt like such a seedy deal, though. I felt scummy after I did it.
I'll let you know, Josh. It sounds seedy.
But listen, then I started thinking, like, how did this guy get it?
I was going to say, it sounds seedy because how did he get it?
This story could be awful. Like, this story could involve, like, him in a murder, like a murder-suicide kind of thing or whatever else it was.
That took a dark turn.
I don't know. Like, again.
If he did, that's very ballsy to sell it in the actual park.
Again, this might not be for everyone. I go, but this is TV 14. Let's just think about that. But no, I'm like, this could have been something where he's like, okay, so he kidnapped somebody from guest relations. This poor person's chained in his house somewhere, and they don't even have their badge. And that's even worse. Okay. They've been stripped of their Disney guest relations title, but now it's in the hands of, at that time, a 20-year-old, man, I was 20 when that happened. Horrible.
Yeah. But I think like overall, when it comes to Future World, as we've taken 2 episodes just to cover this topic of the OG Future World. Again, what we said in episode 1 is magic is not always about the special effects. It's not always about the thrills. And it's not about necessarily, I think some people think, oh, Disney magic is getting something free or somebody doing something specifically for you.
All about experience.
No, it's a feeling. It's a feeling. And when I would walk into Epcot, it just the same way, and this will be a separate podcast, is when you used to walk into MGM, you felt like you were going to a Hollywood set. Now that's not that anymore. But
And
when
that's a
you would
throwback
go,
line to say, by the way, when you say
yes,
when you used to go in MGM. It took me so long to call
yeah,
that Hollywood
but that's
Studios.
what I mean when it was MGM. But when you walked into Epcot, also just the fact that it was Epcot Center, remember? Like for the longest time, even like name change, and then it just became Epcot, and then they stopped making it look like an acronym of all capitals, and that became Epcot, became like a name, a word. But originally it was Welcome to the Walt Disney World Vacation Complex featuring Magic Kingdom and Epcot Center, and it was called Epcot Center.
Do you remember the buses? Because the
Yeah,
buses had little pennants on the
flag, yeah.
side,
Mhm.
and they just say MK for Magic Kingdom and EC.
Yep.
So there was no kids. If you're at home watching this, there was no digital readout on the top of these buses. It was
Mm.
literally when they came up, they were kind of color coded, and they'd have each thing, and they were like. Then I remember the controversy of saying, "What's the one for MGM going to look like? What's it going to say?" Like,
But I think the pennants, actually, to correct you once again, the pennants were the hotels, because like I remember Grand Floridian's pennant and like whatever. So
no,
it
I mean
wasn't like
it was a triangle on the side of the bus. It wasn't
okay.
like a
Yeah,
flag.
that's what I mean. It was a little triangle pennant on the side of the bus, and it was to denote the hotel that it was going to, but I can't remember how. I think it was one of those, maybe it was one of those flippy marquee things that said Magic Kingdom or Epcot. We'd have to look into that, or tell us in
Oh,
the
they did
comments.
have
But
those in the front too. Man,
it,
I am batting like 200 right now. This is embarrassing. Like I
yeah.
can't get anything right.
Well,
Okay, so here's something else I made up. We'll just go out here.
but on that note, remember back, and again, this is partly Epcot, but not really. Back when the only way to get to Magic Kingdom was through the ticket center. Like you could not go straight up to the Magic Kingdom. Buses didn't, nobody did. It was you had to go to ticket center and you would either take the
Nobody gets
monorail
in to see
there
the wizard. Not no one, no how.
or the ferry boat. That was the only way you could do it. But anyway, back to Epcot and back to the magic. I do just think that feeling of some kind of cohesion, because now when you ask me what that half of Epcot is, even with the new names, I don't know that there is a real theme, because I can't even tell you what each name is and what falls under it. Like, I also
Well, we
personally
gotta
feel,
learn. We gotta learn. You know, it's
yeah,
again, we're kind of
but
like
it
the
just
old
like,
man yells at cloud here,
right.
or get
I
off
love
my
Epcot.
lawn.
I love Epcot, but it just feels disjointed in that half. And like even down to, and I say this at nauseum, Disney was always known for very clever naming on things. And when they named the gift shop
Creations,
Creation Shop, and when they
the
named the
connections.
cafeteria Connections, it was so exciting. Oh, they're gonna have something called Communicore, and it's like a big cement block with whatever inside. It
Well,
just
here's the
doesn't
deal. All they
have
did
that
was they made a
vibe.
very large Starbucks,
Mhm.
a concrete parking lot, a stage for Encanto. How it fits into any of this, I don't
It doesn't.
understand. And then a statue of Walt taking a dump in the
Right.
middle of it.
Right. So I
Like,
still go to Epcot. I still love Epcot. It's just, and I love certain attractions there, absolutely. But it's just lost that element of the Disney magic theming for
yeah.
me that kind of like was a big part of it. Like that was the thing of like we talked about standards that you held Disney to, and the creativity and the cohesion, also down to when construction happened, you didn't see it. There was a scrim. That's why they invented go away green and like things to make sure that the magic was maintained. And now I feel like it was just putting up all these walls everywhere for everything. And then it was just like, coming soon. Can't help you like it.
Everything's probably closed or temporary. But no,
Right.
I think it's like they could have done another water feature in the middle, like behind the
Mhm.
Spaceship Earth. I almost
Mhm.
said the
Well,
ball.
remember they were supposed to in 2020, it was supposed to be, or pre 2020 when they announced the D23, it was supposed to be this giant structure that was replacing where that fountain was. And it was like
Mhm.
everybody called it the egg because the way it was shaped. And it was supposed to be like, I
It
think
was
two
that
or three
2
stories
tour.
high.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
It
was
was,
like
like,
trees
slanted or
all in
whatever.
it and
Yeah.
everything. So this wasn't their original concept. And that's, to me as a Disney fan, evident when you look at it. Like this doesn't look well planned out. This looks phoned in or as an afterthought. And again, I encourage everybody, and I don't care if you
Yeah.
vehemently disagree with me, I want to hear it, because if you see that, and especially OG Disney fans, and you walk in there and you go, no, this makes perfect sense, to the people that they brought back that fountain in the front of Spaceship Earth, and people were so excited because it had the old
Mhm.
school, like little, I don't know if you call it a
Oh, the
flower
glass.
or
Yeah,
whatever,
like
like
the
icon,
Epcot
the
logo, yeah.
logo. That was like so exciting to people because they're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that represents, I think something was going to be named Communicore. It was like old school. But then you walk in and you're like, what is this? Like this feels like amusement park. It doesn't feel like theme park. And that's
Yeah.
always been the difference was with Disney, was the heavy theming.
No, I know, I get that completely. Like I said, I think and I'm like, again, there's things about new Epcot I really do love, but I'm like, there's a way to a cure all for anything that you don't like in the new Future World is going through the international gateway and go directly to the countries and going and start your day. And again, my experience when I go to the parks, I like each park for different reasons. And I'll be honest with you, I don't do a lot in Future World. It's kind of like a little short stopover. Maybe I go if somebody wants to grab a drink somewhere over at Connections or something like that. I'm not a coffee person really, but if somebody wanted a Starbucks drink, which I'm not huge into buying that kind of stuff, or go to the little Club Cool, grab, a shot of, whatever it is, the one that tastes like McDonald's barbecue sauce. I think it's like China or Malaysia or something like that. It could be. I'm sure I'm wrong at which one I said. So I would get there, but there is one genuinely that tastes exactly like McDonald's.
You had me taste it the last time we were there together, and you were 100% right. It does taste like barbecue sauce.
Yes, the batting average goes. I am right. I finally got something right. But no, again, I really love so much about these parks, and I want to feel like we're trashing anything. Like I know,
no, I don't want that. This is just, but the point of the podcast is about the magic. We obviously still go repeatedly. I love Disney. I'm not the one who's walking around complaining while I'm there necessarily. Now I may say something like, okay, I keep getting lost in Future World because I don't know where is where just yet, even after going. And I may have opinions, but overall, I still love Disney. I still go. It's just this whole podcast is about us saying, like, can we bring back some of that magic? And I do think the theming
could be a little more magical in the larger open area there. But that thought, I said we're going to wrap up this episode and we'll look forward to the next one. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Make sure you're following all of our socials at BBT Magic Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. And make sure you're on there. If you have any comments you want to leave below the video on Facebook, on YouTube rather, we'd love to read them. We'd love to respond to them. And again, as always, be nice to us. We have feelings.
Yes, but we do. We'd also love to hear.
I have no shame.
We'd love to hear future topics you'd like to hear us discuss, because that's always fun as well. And thanks to those of you who've been getting the word out about us, because we're still newbies and finding our footing, like Josh said. But overall, we're just having fun talking about this to each other, because we thought if we talk about it on our own anyway, we might as well just stick a mic in our faces and see who else wants to listen.
And our schedule coming up will be about 2 drops a week. We're talking about maybe a Tuesday and Thursday drop for our podcast. So stay tuned for that. But thank you all for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much. Love you guys. I keep getting used to where my camera is. Sorry about
that. Well, please watch your head and step as you exit the podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Bring back the magic for all to see. Together we'll discover all the joy and glow. In every story, there's a little bit of gold. Join our podcast adventure, let the magic unfold.